Good evening. This is Jonathan Albin, Game Master J, and this is Nycos Nightly News. Tonight's episode is going to be focusing particularly on the Imagination Launchpad, and so we just go ahead and kick it off tonight. If you are new to this station, I am a game master with nearly 50 years of experience behind the shield, so to speak, and we endeavor to improve roleplay by increasing the ability of the human mind to imagine. We are going to talk about Launchpad, and this is because I am an imagination coach. I have been helping people devise greater access to their creativity and imagination. It means, and when I talk about this coaching, sometimes people get confused, and this is the means of getting to an active imagination. If you have ever been in a situation where you literally couldn't think of a thing to do, or you couldn't think of a way around a problem, this course would be for you. It's your path towards effective visualization, where you're actually going to be able to see a solution and therefore be able to act upon that. Now, I know there are people who have a condition that they seem to not be able to visualize, and that's perfectly fine because visualization is only a part of the way the imagination works. And so we work to develop the effects of visualization, if not the actual application of that benefit. Some people can't see images within their mental condition, and that's okay. You can operate perfectly fine without it. It's just a way to do it. So we're also talking about developing a method of achieving lucid dream states. And by this, I'm not speaking specifically of the subconscious dream state known as lucid dreaming, but also the concept of getting to the point where your brain is acting on your behalf in a lucid fashion, even in those positions and conditions where you're not able to see. This also means that we're going to be developing manifestation skills. I know that in the world today there's huge confusion over the concepts of the secret or concepts of intention and such. And while this is a way of developing a manifestation skill, it is not necessarily the idea of accepting or embracing any of those particular philosophies. Instead, it's just an idea of how to improve the mechanics that would allow such an effect to occur. It's also going to be a practical map to something I call the domino principle, and the concept of creating a life that is focused on your intentional, your purposeful success in life by working on all of the variety of elements that are required to get there, and allows your subconscious and your creative mind to look for and embrace those parts of the process that you haven't even actually been able to identify yet, and therefore build everything in a line of dominoes. And I'll explain more later as we go. This is also the guide to being at the top of your game. If you haven't yet purchased it, I do have the current edition of my book, The Top of Your Game, available on Amazon.com, and feel free to search my name, Jonathan Albin, and find that book. It's a great elemental tool for getting to the successes that you're looking for in your life. It's also a gateway to activating your subconscious. Most people are aware that the dream state is the way the brain processes data that has been fed to it over the period of time since its last sleep state. But the ability to activate that even when you're awake is really powerful because it provides you with a whole new series of tools for accomplishment that you had not have access to before. And ultimately, the Launchpad is an imagination toolbox. It is the processor, if you will, that allows your mind to go back to the creative state we were in when we were much younger. As you may recall, when you're a child, you engage in the world of imagination at a much greater rate, and there are levels of endorphins and serotonin interaction with the brain that were much more active when you were younger that we seem to have misplaced or whatever. And this is a way to give yourself an opportunity to re-enter, if you will, that mental state. We'll go more into that as we go along. Now, I do have a disclaimer, and that is that the Imagination Launchpad is a device and a mechanism that is for entertainment purposes only, and there are no claims medically or psychologically or anything that are made in this presentation of anything other than enhanced awareness. It is for entertainment only, and I do want to make sure that that's clear so that there's no confusion about whether or not I'm making any kind of psychological or medical claims about Launchpad. Alrighty, from that there are 9 things you need to know, and we're going to go into each one of them. We are going to go into the purpose of the Launchpad, why the Launchpad works. We're talking about the perception and visualization mechanism itself, how the brain makes pictures, and how they are interacted with. We're going to talk about the scale of the mental arena. How much room do we have to work with, so to speak? What kind of inaction, what kind of expression can we make in terms of real change to the world through our imagination? We're also going to talk about how much serious work play is, because when we are involved with play, quite often we don't realize that it does require exertion of certain amounts of effort, and we're going to talk about that a bit. We're also going to talk about overcoming mind blindness. Now, this is not necessarily just talking about this autopsy. This is not just talking about the inability to see, inability to visualize. We're talking about being blindsided by situations simply because our brain wasn't prepared to engage on the different fronts that we might need to in the future. And so by overcoming mind blindness, we're going to be able to make changes in our lives that are dynamically greater than we would even have perceived. We're also going to talk about some of the fallibilities and limitations of the imagination. We have very many conditions that we feel that our imagination might fix, but there are some limits to it as well as, and there are some places where the imagination simply cannot carry the day, and we'll talk more about that as well. And then we're going to talk about the checklist, the very stepped process of launch, which is fundamentally how the concept of the Imagination Launchpad came about, is the idea that there is a checklist. There are certain things we have to specify in our mental processes in order to be the place where we can actually launch our imagination into the stratosphere, so to speak. And also some of the byproducts, both the happy and the sometimes challenging byproducts of an active imagination. And then finally, we'll have a period of time of analysis and feedback where we look at how the Imagination Launchpad is going for us so far, and what changes we could make, and perhaps what changes need to be made to the process to make it more effective for you. So, in all, this is a role play revolution. I know we're talking about things on a non-game framework when we're talking about the Launchpad, but the reality is this is all fundamentally launching a role play revolution, because in reality we are all role players in virtually every facet of our lives. We are, in essence, we are making the world a better place by making the world what we need it to be. And we are also at the same time bringing ourselves into alignment with the purpose of existence, by doing so, because we are put here for a reason. And we will talk more about that in a future episode. I do want to thank you for having been with me for this introductory kickoff message for Imagination Launchpad. We'll do more in the next episode. Until then, have a great day, and I will see you next time. I'm Jonathan Alvin, Game Master J, and this has been Nycos